8:30 a.m., so we'll call our meeting to order. Could we begin with the roll call, please?
Ms. Byrd?
Present.
Mr. Willie?
Oh, yeah, here.
Mr. Desai?
Here.
Mr. Horian?
Here.
Ms. Tornatori?
Here.
And the chair, Mr. Delange, is excused.
Thank you. I know we've all received the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Do you have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, and the first item on our agenda is a quasi-judicial hearing. Staff.
Chair, or who's acting as chair today? If I may, have there been any ex parte communications?
Not on my part, the board,
No.
any ex parte communication?
No.
And anyone that, because this is a quasi judicial hearing, anyone that speaks needs to be sworn in. So would you like to take care of that all at once?
This is not a quasi-judicial hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was announced as a.
Right, that's how it is on the agenda, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
This is a legislative action. Okay, sorry.
All right, you got me to hear that, right?
That's good.
Good deal. Thank you.
Good morning, Noelle Eaton, City Planner. This is ordinance 2023-15. This is a development agreement between the City of Daytona Beach Shores and Daytona Beach Shores LLC. Again, this is a development agreement, which is a legislative discretionary action and does not consider specific standards, but the Land Development Code does provide criteria that shall be included within each development agreement. This is just some background information. The property is at 3411 South Atlantic Avenue. This action is for an 86-unit, 18-story residential multifamily condominium building on approximately, it's 1.04 upland acres with 0.39 acres east of the bulkhead line. The property is currently owned by Daytona Beach Shores LLC, and the property is under contract with Valor Capital. These are just some of the highlights that are contained in your staff report. Again, this is an 86-unit, 18-story multifamily condominium with associated parking, 6,945 square feet of retail and restaurant, and then an additional 9,475 square feet of beach club accessory uses. Through this development agreement, the density is measured from the mean high water line. The duration of this agreement is 3 years for the issuance of building permit and fees paid, with 7 years to receive the final certificate of occupancy. I'll go over the deviations contained in this. There are 11 deviations from the city's land development code that are being requested through this agreement. There's also a provision to allow staff modifications up to 10% of dimensional or landscaping standards, but this does not include building height or density or other standards that are regulated by our comprehensive plan. This is an aerial view of the property, 3411 South Atlantic. To the south is the Towers 10 condo. To the north is the Days Inn Hotel, and then across the street is the Burger King and the Pirates Island Golf. This is just 2 properties north of the Dunlawton right-of-way. This is a street view of the property today. It's currently vacant. I'll go over these. They are contained in the staff report. These are the 11 deviations. The first one is a deviation from the standard requiring 2 loading zones. The development agreement is proposing 1 loading zone for this project. The second is a deviation from the breezeway visual corridor. The standard is a minimum of 30%. The agreement is proposing 17.5%. The third is a deviation from the maximum north-south building coverage. The standard is a maximum 65%. The deviation is a maximum of 83%. The fourth is a deviation from the permitted lot coverage. The standard is 35%, and the deviation is requesting 60%. The fifth is a deviation from the minimum green area on the site. The standard of the Land Development Code is 30% minimum, and the agreement is proposing 21%. The sixth is a deviation from the side setbacks that are applicable to this property. The requirement for this project for north and south setback is 94.6 feet. And the proposed standard is a north setback of 15 feet and a south setback of 20 feet. The seventh is similar. The standard is a requirement that there is a minimum 40-foot setback from side property lines. Again, the proposed standard is a north setback of 15 feet and a south setback of 20 feet. The eighth deviation is a deviation from the required number of parking spaces. 175 spaces are required for this project and 133 spaces are proposed. There is a note, of course, that the owner retains options to add 29 car lifts within the existing spaces. The ninth deviation is a deviation from the minimum 5-foot landscape buffer required along the north property line. The proposed standard is a 1-foot landscape buffer on the north. The 10th deviation is a minimum standard of 10-foot landscape buffer. I'm sorry, this should be 15. 15-foot landscape buffer along the A1A right-of-way, and the proposed standard is 5.8 feet. And then the final deviation is a deviation that the applicant provide a 7-foot public walkway or compensation to the city, which is equal to the cost of landscaping, irrigation, and that construction of the public walkway. The deviation, the standard proposes no public walkway and no compensation to the city. This is a conceptual plan of the basement and ground floor plan. Again, this is contained in the staff report and the documents provided by the applicant. This is a conceptual plan of the second floor and then the residential tower. Here is a conceptual design of the ground floor. The applicant will go over these in detail of how they've come to these. This is the summary of the 15 standards that are required through section 15-4A of the Land Development Code. This is just a summary that these requirements have been met. The public notice requirements have been met for this ordinance. Staff has received public comment that has been provided to you this morning and has been provided as part of the record. The Community Services Department is recommending approval of the development agreement, including the 11 deviations, and then the waiver of compensation for that 7-foot public walkway will be subject to City Commission approval. I am available if you have any questions, but I will let the applicant, they have a presentation for you guys today as well.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For the record, I'm Rob Merrill with the Cobb Cole Law Firm. We're going to wait for the PowerPoint, which doesn't involve me. That's too technical. I'm just going to make a couple overview comments, then pass it over to the Valor guys. My office address is 149 South Ridgewood in Daytona Beach. I know you guys know me, but I'd like to do that for the record. Here on behalf of Valor Capital, I'm very excited to be part of this project, which I think is going to be very important and very significant for Daytona Beach shores. And these guys have a great presentation that I'm going to kick to in a minute, but I'll start by thanking everybody, you guys included. I know you guys don't get paid for this job. It's an important job, we think, but thank you for taking time on a Monday morning to do this. And Noel and Stuart and all the rest of the city staff, you know, we've been at this for more than a year. So I want to thank them. You know, Noel does a great job both in her written presentation, which hopefully you guys got a chance to read through, and her presentation to you this morning. These guys are some of the best in the business, so I hope you take their thoughts and their report into consideration in your deliberations. You know, they've gone through, as Noel did briefly here, you know, all of the criteria from the comprehensive plan to the land development regulations, and it checks off all of the boxes. So I think that's important for you guys to think about. I've been doing this for about 35 years, and I think one of the most important things that I do when it's a business who hasn't been in the city before is allow them the opportunity to talk about themselves, who they are, what they've done, so you guys can kind of understand, who you're dealing with, the track record. These guys have an exceptional record, I think. They're a multinational company that's done stuff all over the world, literally. So I hope you'll respect that they'll want to take a few minutes to talk to you about themselves, which I think is important, and about other projects that they've done. Once they go through their PowerPoint and talk about their vision for the Shores project, I'm going to make a few more comments, and then we'll open it up for all of our team to answer any questions that you guys have. So with that, I'll turn it over to Valor and let them go through, if hopefully, PowerPoint.
Thank you. Thank you and good morning as well. Thank you everyone for coming this morning. I know it's a nice chilly Monday morning. My name is Darius Wilher. I work for Valor Capital. We have a short presentation. I think it's going to be around 10 to 15 minutes. We'll try and motor through it, and then for any specific questions people may have, we'll be here to answer those in greater detail. A little bit about Valor Capital is, let's see if I can switch this to. Is there someone who can help me switch this to when I click down, or is it just going to be drag and drop? Okay, so here. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So Valor Capital is a development company that has international representation across the Americas. We really started about 40 years ago. The owners of the company began 40 years ago. And starting from small industrial projects to really learning the business, and then now to where we have developed small cities in Mexico, one by the name of La Vista, one by the name of Bosque Real, which you can see images of here. We focus on luxury, high-end residential product, which means really understanding the needs of the people who live there, understanding the context in which every project is located. Because frankly, if it isn't a great project for the people who live there and a great project for the community, it doesn't work. So from the beginning, we really try to understand what is required of where we are developing. We are not the company that comes in and says, this is how we do it. And to that end, for the last year and a half, I want to say we've kind of conducted extensive surveys. We've met with the city, which has been tremendous, by the way. That is a big reason why we decided to stay, is because it's very easy to work and get answers and understand how should we shape things to make them work here. So that was a huge component. I would like to thank the city publicly, and Stuart and Noel, who have helped us guide us and understand kind of what are the key points we need to factor into anything we want to do here. So right now we have about 2 million square feet in development internationally, and we are focusing Valor Capital on the local market in the U.S. and specifically Florida. We've had several successful projects here, and we believe Florida is an excellent place to develop. A lot of us grew up in Florida, so it's kind of hometown for some of us. Here you can kind of just see, in factors such as how does it integrate into the environment, what are the landscaping, all of these components heavily factor into how we envision and do our projects. And our most recent project in Clearwater is called Serena by the Sea. And you've heard this project referred to as Serena at the Shores. And that's kind of our approach to this, which is, again, to bring sort of this relaxed, luxury, beachfront, waterfront kind of sensibility to this. And, at the core of it, I would say we bring good people to good places. And that is kind of the view of kind of how we've done this project and how we've sort of developed the project. And one of our key points is design and our approach to it. I know that's kind of some of the things that we've spoken about, so we want to tell you kind of what led us through this. And I'm going to let Mauricio, our Executive Development Manager, kind of speak about this.
Hi, good morning. Beforehand, I want to apologize a little bit about my English. I'll try my best, and I'm passionate about it. So we're really a design-centered developer. and as you will see in some of our buildings, they're not cookie cutters. But a lot of people think that design center it's only like to build a sculpture, and really that's not it. Because a building is really more, it's not an object that comes into the land, it's more a living entity because it interacts with it and it shapes the city and the community. So you have a lot more responsibility than making a beautiful sculpture in there. It's more to understand that, and it has to born from the city and interact with it and with the, like if you do the same building in different types of them, it's not really designing. Design is to understand and to reflect in both sides, right? To have the input and also to put the output, because it's gonna create a huge effect. So I think that's one of the key parts of how do we do things to get a unique building each time. Those are examples of things that we've done in the past in Mexico, in Florida. And for us as a company, I'll put our mission as a company. It's really to create world-class real estate developments, which are a continuous source of value to its clients, owners, investors, and the community. And for us, the word continuous, that's the key word. Because if you come, do one project, and you leave, and whatever it is, that's not bringing value. So to be a continuous source of value to everyone, including the community, it's a key part. Because if you want to stay in the business, your name is all that you have. So I just wanted to make that point, because in every project that we made, that's our motto, to be a continuous source of value. And we're located in the West Coast. So mobilizing to the East Coast, really for one project is not our main goal. So we want to understand and to create, really it's more like a partnership with the city, with the community, because we're interested in create that continuous source of value. So that was our core principle. And I want to let you speak about the team, because one of the most important parts is to build a team, locally and globally.
Right, that is one of the most successful things we've done. Any project we develop in, whether it's a hotel, hospital, a residential resort, we find the best, not just internationally, but locally, so that we can put together a team that understands and can design a project that will be successful. So on our Serena at the Shores project, we have Valor Capital as the developer. We have Cobb and Cole that has given us and helped guide us through what is really required by the community. What does it mean to develop here? And that's been extremely helpful. We as well have the performance group, Joe Hopkins, who has really helped us understand the key points and understand, like, as an example, like, you hear of these deviations, but the large majority of those are simply related to a parking podium, which doesn't really exist in the code here yet, which a lot of cities have now started implementing. But he's helped us understand what is the way to do that so that we achieve the best outcome, is how I would put that. We also have with us today, we have our design partners from Gomez Vasquez International. They're gonna tell you a little bit as to, as you see, it's not a square box. It's actually quite an unusual shape, but there's a reason we arrived to that, and it's important for everybody and the neighbors. We've explained it in a few different forms, and we would like to talk to you about that. As well, we have from, our local architect from ODP. They are based in Miami and Tampa. They have numerous projects across the state, and they bring an incredible ability to turn an artistic vision into a concrete reality, which you've often seen that developments, they can come up with great pictures and stuff like this, but somehow they don't quite become a reality. So we've got an architect who really understands the challenges that waterfront development has, and he'll speak to that a bit as well today. We have, we've been sharing the materials of Serena by the Sea, so we have a world-class marketing team, and we'll speak to that a little bit. But obviously, our most key partnership is with the city and with our neighbors. And to that end, when we started this a year and a half ago and started reaching out to various neighbors and to the city, it was not in an effort to do otherwise than to say, we're very transparent, we want to develop what's wanted and what we believe will be long-term value, as Mauricio spoke to. there is a key reason why we decided to develop in the Shores, and it's because we love it here. And I would like to introduce to everyone our development manager for Serena at the Shores, Mr. Alan Agami, and he is going to be the point person on this. And I think it's important that he expresses why he accepted the project and what he saw here that Valor saw.
Morning. First of all, I want to congratulate you on your city because it's absolutely stunning. And what you guys have done here is noteworthy. First time here, we were crossing over the bridge, and the views are just fantastic. We have a jewel of a city. And then when we got to the site, I started walking around because I said, if I'm going to take this, I need to know a little bit of the city. So I just walked for like a mile south and a mile north, and I saw no power lines. I saw no trash. Impeccable. So I was very impressed. This talks about an attention to detail from the city and great urban planning. So I want to congratulate you on that. It's not every city that does this. So, and then we have incredible infrastructure, a lot of space to grow, and whether you want the tranquility of the beach, the beautiful sunrises, or you just want the vibrant city life, you have it all here at Daytona Beach Shores. So I really love that. And another thing that was very noteworthy is I stepped into almost every business that I could, and every person that I met was incredibly friendly. That's also not very common. So I just wanted to congratulate you on that. I'm very excited and proud to have been picked for the development manager, and I'm really looking forward to working with you closely and doing this together. It's going to be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. One point I wanted to briefly mention is from the developer standpoint. Again, if you had a chance to review any of the 3D materials, we do a substantial amount of work to market and to, basically we believe you have to sell the location first before you can sell the place. So if you can see all of our marketing materials, they largely talk about the city within which it exists and the context, the local businesses, the community that they expect to find, because it is, we're selling a life experience, we're not selling a building. And as Alan just said, you've already done the hard work to make an incredible city. And we like to bring good people to great places, or great people to great places. So, again, the thing I want to emphasize is we don't see ourselves as standing alone in this. We see ourselves as being a partner with the city, being a partner with the community. And we understand that we have to earn that right. And we are working towards that. But, we think the first step is to create something that's iconic, that will work within the context of Daytona Beach Shores and sort of show the world what a great place this is, because you do have a great place, and we're going to be very happy and very proud to kind of let everybody know. And the next step of that is to make a project which is worthy of this city. And to that end, I would like to invite our design architect from Goins Vasquez International to talk about that. Oh, did I just skip that? Ellen, your photos. Sorry. In case you didn't know, this is Daytona Beach Shores. It's really a beautiful place.
And life really is better here. I love that. I love that motto.
Yeah. Good job on the slides there, my friend. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the story of how you came up with the shape, because it's important. You know, it's not, you look down and we see square buildings, so we want to understand why did we choose this. Go ahead, Marco.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Marco Sanchez Castro. I'm a design director at GVI, stands for Goins Vasquez International Architects. And I'm very pleased and excited to be part of the team. As they described a minute ago, I think it's a very impressive team, not only the design, but also the development side of the team. So I will take just 5 minutes to talk about the architecture side of the project, and we're happy to ask and to respond questions at the end. So about GVI, we are an architectural firm based in Mexico. We have offices now in North, South, Central, and Central America and Europe. It was founded in '69, and we have a large, extensive experience working on resorts in high-end residential in the Americas and Europe. Some images just to show the type of projects that we've done on some destinations in the Americas and Europe, where dealing with the city and beachfronts and the community has been important for us. Resorts in Cabo, in Mexico, the Riviera Maya, Mexico as well. This is the Luxury Collection Hotel and Golf Resort in Panama. So some of these projects, recent projects, they were developed responding to a local agenda in these cities, and of course, contributing to the dynamics of the cities where they sit on. A little bit on the architectural side of Serena by the Shores. So Darius was explaining how the shape of the building and the way the building looks is not conventional, and there's a reason for it. And it's the result of various months working on the best solution in order to come up with the best building for this site. I probably don't need to explain the location and the conditions around the site, but all of these factors were very, very important for us in order to shape the building, in order to respond to the local conditions. So that's the site in context. With South Atlantic Avenue on the west and the beach, of course, on the east side. This is just a diagram, just a quick diagram, just to show you how we took into account a number of factors in order to shape this building. Things like traffic analysis, the views, the sun condition, the shadows, and of course the neighbors, the neighboring buildings, the condominiums on the south side and the hotel on the north, and how we can respond to this context in order to contribute to the city, but also to be respectful to the neighbors. And we ran a number of variations on the schemes in order to get to the best solution. And this is an old project that we know that it was designed by a different team with a different developer, a very efficient box, but not very carefully sort of designed. We thought that this was not the right solution, and we had to play with the conditions in order to respond in a more interesting way. So we started with this. We didn't like it very much, and we asked ourselves what we can do in order to respond to the street, to the avenue condition, but also to the beach, without forgetting the neighbors and how this building is gonna sort of create a new dynamics in this part of this. So this is the shape that Darius was talking about earlier, and this was the conclusion of a number of options. So what we did here was very different to what normally developers do, which is on a beachfront, which is just to put the building in front, all the way close to the beach, and forget about the street, forget about the neighbors. So what we did was to place the building parallel to the streets, away from the beach, but creating more views, interestingly enough, but also taking some of the space on the beach side of that volume in order to create that gap between the building and the neighbor. So what that does, and you can see it in the diagram on the top right, is that it allows for some views from the neighbors diagonally through our side. So the perception of the neighbors is that you don't have a very heavy, tall neighbor, but it's rather a slender and sort of lightweight building, sitting close to the street, responding to the street condition, but also allowing these views from the neighbors to the beach. Also, the building celebrates, in a way, the views to the back, to the Halifax River. So it doesn't forget this dual condition of the ocean on one side, but this incredible opportunity to look back to the river. So that's how we ended up with this shape. This diagram explains how by shaping the building like this, we create these view corridors between the building and the neighboring sites, which is rather unusual in places like this. But we thought it was important to create this connection between the ocean, building, and the street. Just a simple model to show how when they ended up with this shape, in relationship with the neighbors, trying to be very respectful with the neighbors and creating this new contemporary piece that feels adequate to the context. You can see the street side here. And one of the main design principles from the very beginning was activation of the street. How can we create active ground floors that can speak to the dynamics of the city? How can we contribute to the life of the street, of the city, within a building? So what we have is an active ground floor with publicly accessible uses. And not only is going to bring people, but it's going to create destination. So this ground floor that we will describe in a second, it creates a space that connects the ocean to the avenue through a series of spaces at the ground floor. You will see that in a second. Some images, precedent images of other projects that some of them we have worked on, and some we know very well. That what they do is that they open up the ground floor and connect the views and the flow of people from the street through the building to the ocean. An illustrative view of the sense of arrival on the street view. So this is South Atlantic Avenue. And you can see the aesthetic side of the building. So it's a contemporary building trying to respond to history of Daytona, but in a contemporary way, to contribute to this new force that the city is going through right now with this new contemporary building. A review of the same side. You can see in this view how you can see the sea from this side. And this was by creating these spaces between the building and the neighboring buildings. And I think this is my last slide. This is the view from the beach. So you can see how the building was shaped in order to create these views, but also how we treated the podium so that it is very respectful. It doesn't feel an aggressive volume. And also we have this connection to the beach. So it feels this building works as a transition between the beach and the avenue. That's for right now, and I hand it over to Darius.
Thank you, Marco. Thanks. Thank you. Good, so I'd like to invite Mr. Danny Fatal from ODP to speak a little bit about the materialization of this project.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Danny Fatal. I'm the principal for the Tampa office for ODP Architects. Just wanted to give you guys a quick idea of what we do and who we are. So we are the architect of record for the Serena building itself, working in conjunction with GVI and the Valor team itself. We started in South Florida about 20 years ago. We actually had our 20th anniversary this year, and I've been with them for over 17 years. We pride ourselves in working and basically taking people's dreams, concepts, and turning them into reality. We have had the opportunity to work with a lot of well-known world star architects, such as Zaha Hadid, Foster & Partners, and UN Studios. So we have been very privileged to work with a lot of 18 designers over this time and bring their actual work to reality. Some of the projects that we have on the screen now are just some of the items that we've brought to fruition. These projects are in Tampa, part of the Water Street redevelopment that was done with strategic property partners. And then as well as 1000 Museum, which is one of the ones that one of the first opportunities that we've had to really bring our talents to light. Building the Scorpion, or as other people have known it, is one of the projects that we did with Zaha Hadid. We pride ourselves in being able to work with the logistics that we have in Florida, such as the crazy weather that we have here, or hurricanes, or flooding, and things like that. we're very familiar with having to go through that process, working on shorelines, beaches, anywhere from South Florida all the way to Central Florida, both on the East Coast and on the West Coast. I just wanted to say thank you for the time and thank you for the opportunity, and I'll give it back to Luis.
Thank you, Don. So, I want to speak a little bit about what Marco was telling about the ground floor and that corridor, that it's a public thing. Because, like, how has been in other years and in the past, is when you make a condo in the beach, it's more like you conquer that little beach and it's you're part of it, and it's a fortress, right? To protect from the outside. But philosophically, to create that community, I think it's important that you make that interaction with the public, so it becomes a public space. So we created, and Darius was saying this also on the beginning. It has been a process from the beginning with the city and with the neighbors. So at the first iteration of the project, when we presented to Stuart and to Towers 10, we did a presentation to all the neighbors, and we had a small bakery in the ground floor. And that really resonated with them. And they were like, oh yeah, we need that, and we want more of that. So we kind of surveyed it, and they were like, no, let's make a restaurant, and let's make a club, and the building was already designed in that state. But, so we came back to our office, and Stuart is not gonna let me die, because every time that we came again, it was with another design. But when we came back, our board says, they're right, we need to make this more important public space. So we changed that ground floor, and we made all of it as a public corridor, that it has its own restaurant, bakery, and then you go down, and it has like a kind of a beach club that connects with the city, and the city can interact with it and create a community. So for us, that interaction, it creates that life that we want to understand. And it's very important for us how that interaction with the neighbors, it has shaped it's like our third design that we were, okay, this is what we need. So I think it's gonna be a great value added to the community. Let me see if you can see here, but all of this side, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but all of this side, it's that connection. It says the bakery, and then you have all of this is the restaurant, you go down, this is the street. All of this pink thing is the public spaces that you're gonna be enjoying the views and enjoying interacting with the city. So it's really born from the design I was trying to communicate at the beginning.
Why don't you stay up here with me for this moment? We're going to bring this to an end. Thank you for your patience and your time and being willing to listen to us. And again, thank you for the neighbors who participated in that original design charrette, because I believe we have a much better project with the input they gave us. So the last thing that we want to just talk about is, again, bringing value to the community, which is part of our core mission. And it's not just a slogan or a rah-rah thing. We actually seriously, we mean it. You can go talk to our community in Clearwater, and you can see between our interactions with the firefighters and the neighbors who lost their roofs that we just had the construction teams put back on, and the partnerships with all the local businesses in the area. We're very serious about it. It is important to us because, as Mauricio mentioned, you know, we want to be known as one of your developers, not an international developer who's come in. This has been done successfully in the past. I'm sorry if I'm not saying his name correctly, but I believe DiMucci kind of came before, and he sort of created this wave of development which brought a lot of value into the community and a lot of new families to the community. So we believe that's possible to do again with a new face, a new era, and there's some things that we'll be presenting at the City Commission that I think you'll understand kind of our level of commitment to that. But even during the construction process, you know, we're hyper aware that as the structure goes up, it can be a painful time for neighbors. And we've already kind of had our chance to discuss with them, and we're very focused on getting through those painful stages as fast as possible. But also, on the other side of that, you know, reaching out to all the small businesses, you know, and again, I was shocked, not shocked, that would be unfair, but I was pleasantly surprised just walking into each business, meeting business owners, just how pleasant everyone was. And to that end, you know, we, like on our projects, we want to create the local directory, which has all the businesses. There's gonna be 1,000 workers. They need to eat somewhere, they need to sleep somewhere, they need to ship stuff, they need to go have a drink at the tavern across the street after work, which we'll have to keep our construction managers out of after hours. There's, again, we want to bring 80 new families. You know, we want to bring people here because this is a good community. Mal has what he describes an acupuncture effect, which I'll let him describe because I think he can speak to that a little bit better, but.
So when you make something in acupuncture, that you put a pin on it, the effect that it goes is not only like round. It makes a huge effect on different nerves. And that's really how a city works, right? It's not direct effect only, only the neighbor next to you. So we want to create that acupuncture effect of making something that understands his environment. It's made for his environment, but creates a positive effect all around the community. So that's really what our motto of that acupuncture effect that we're talking about. And yeah, I just wanted to take a little bit more of this.
Yeah.
So the first time also that we came, making a very different project than what is here, it's a huge risk for us too, because we don't have any comps. It's not like, oh yeah, the neighbor did this and did this, and so we want to know, we understand what to do exactly. So we have that experience because this is what have we done in the last 40 years in different places, but also we have to create all of that. So it's also a big risk for us, and it's more like a partnership with the city, with the community, because in this type of luxury thing, it's mutual. If you don't do well for others don't do well for you, so the experience really is mutual. So that's what we wanted to align ourselves with the community, and I think we have done a good job on that.
I think we've done a good job. We can definitely say we're going to commit to having a more active presence here. You know, I would say we've been able to reach to a number of neighbors. There's some that we have not been able to contact, but, you know, we started kind of a door-to-door, you know, knocking campaign to, again, we feel that more communication is always going to resolve the problems. We know that there are going to always be people who, you know, might have a different view on things, and we're going to be a little bit more dedicated to being able to sit down one-on-one with everybody involved to be able to figure out partnerships. We don't want to sit down and say who's right or who's wrong. We want to, the site will be developed, and if we do it in partnership, it can reach its best possible form. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everyone who attended today. And again, we definitely commit ourselves, you know, to be doing more outreach now as we finally kind of reach this stage of certainty. So thank you very much, and we appreciate your time.
You're very patient, thank you. That was a little longer than we thought it was gonna be. But I have to tell you, you know, this has been more than a year in the making, hundreds of hours. You've understood that it's been a long time getting here, so to condense it all and get it to you is difficult. And hopefully you can appreciate the enthusiasm, the dedication from this group. They're phenomenal, they're new, but we're really hoping they're gonna plant their flag here and do a few more projects, right? You know, we know you guys have gone through a couple of pretty significant hits in these last two storms. It's kind of changed the way people look at the shores, I think. You know, we're on national news, not the greatest reasons, you know, not our doing, but I think we're making a comeback with projects like this. So hopefully you guys will support it. We have a whole team full of folks to answer any questions that you guys have. So I will sit down and make my part of this brief and answer any questions that you guys have for us. I would like to say that if we have any questions that come from the public, that I have the opportunity to try to respond to those. Any questions for us?
Oh, lots.
Thank you. I appreciate all the details. Did staff have anything to add before we go to board questions? So do we have any questions from the board?
Let's see, what's the seawall made of?
Okay, so that's Joe Hopkins. I think you guys know Joe. I'll let him come up and talk about the seawall.
Good morning. My name is Joe Hopkins. I'm an engineer with the Performance Group here in Daytona, 100 Marina Point Drive. The wall failed, as most of you probably know, and there was a pretty fair amount of escarpment, a lot of loss of material. The seawall is going to be replaced in whole with a concrete seawall. And that design has been completed, and we're lining things up right now to get that work initiated. So it will be replaced in full. Anyway.
And the windows in the place, are they going to be hurricane?
Yes, correct.
Yes, those standards are dictated by the building code, and they will be rated.
Thank you. Any idea on what the units will sell for?
Good questions. Keep them going.
We have our head of sales that I'll put you into contact immediately after this. What I can tell you is that we are at the conceptual stage. In Clearwater, we were selling at around $1,100 a square foot. When the comps in the area were around 400 to 500, and that just speaks of a luxury product. We're going through the branding and pricing phase next. Like what we are, in terms of our overall development, the first sort of thing is to have certainty that we will be allowed to develop a project that will reach the standards that we have to be able to sell what we call luxury residential, and then the pricing comes after that. But I can tell you it will be higher than anything that currently exists here.
Higher than anything?
That currently exists here. That's how we want to do it.
One more question. I've seen a lot of people who want to come to a town and get neighbors for us that are from all over the world. Are you going to look locally for people to buy these units as well as nationally?
So what I can tell you is that this just, I don't have this in writing yet. The answer is yes, and to that extent, when we launch sales, we do what's called a friends and family round. And what I have proposed to the board, and which I hope to have fully approved and signed off on by the time we do the presentation to the city commission, is that we will be opening that up to the neighbors. And that is the absolute best price that any of our projects can be at. This is something that we're doing for the Shores, specifically to invite neighbors to be a part of this project. I hope at the city commission that I can have the vice president of sales present that.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
What other questions do we have?
I got a few. The corner you're building on is really a congested corner. You come off of Dunlawton and turn on to A1A, and you got people making U-turns, you got people going into the towers, and it's really congested. How far down the street from that intersection is going to be your entrance to that property?
Joe, maybe you can kind of walk through the lay of the land on the location of the driveway. You can get something up on the screen possibly.
Here, I can probably go back to, will that help you, Joe, the ground floor layout? Okay.
What we're proposing is two entrances, one that's going to be one on the south and one to the north. This is going to be reviewed and vetted through the Department of Transportation. And we're going to look at the queuing distances from the intersection, from Dunlawton particularly. And most of the movement is going to be right in, right out. So we don't see that as an obstruction to the traffic patterns. I know exactly what you're saying, the cluster that occurs right there at the intersection of Dunlawton and A1A. But this is a little bit further north, and we think that we can manage the traffic with the right in, right out movements.
The northern part of that entrance would be great. Southern part might give everybody problems because it's going to be right next to the entrance to the towers.
Correct.
Okay. My second question is, we have a problem with trash pickup on A1A. They always pull them out right on the street, causing traffic problems, and you're not planning on having any pickup on the property. It's going to be right on the street like everybody else. Pull the dumpsters out on the street, and they empty them. Is there any way you could plan for the dumpster, or the pickup guy to go on your property, pick it up, and then back out?
We've had the pleasure of developing and designing several projects here in the Shores. And I can assure you that most of the projects that we've designed have the ability for the trash vehicle to come onto the property and retrieve the dumpster.
Well, I like to find them
But the problem is that out of convenience, the people are pulling them out manually so that the truck doesn't have to access the property. But the sites themselves were integrated with that ability to have the movement occur on the property, and they're like not to. And this will have the ability to have the movement occur on the property as well.
Okay, give me an address of those properties where that happens down after the meeting, and I'll go check them out. My
Well,
third
the
thing
important one
is-
is, this one's gonna happen.
My third thing is, there's only 2 spaces you're gonna require on property for storage or pickup, deliveries,
What we have is,
loading, unloading.
we have a loading zone, correct.
You're only gonna do one?
One is designated as a loading zone, but there, if you look at the front corridor of the building, there's a tremendous area for drop-off. So that drop area can also be used for loading and unloading as well.
I commend the developers, designers for this building, it's fantastic. Okay? You give a lot of open area, I know why you used that, okay? My concern is that you're crowding the North Hotel there, but you're opening up a lot of space for the South condo owners. If I was the hotel owner, I wouldn't particularly like that 18-story building being right on that property line. And I really am concerned about all the things you want to do that are not in line with our development. You understand?
Yeah, on the hotel, I can agree with your sentiment on that. We pushed the entire building forward to liberate as much of those views as possible. What's gonna be outside their windows on that ground floor is gonna be a bunch of trees anyways. Like the renderings, these are pre-conceptual renderings, but we're gonna do extensive landscaping on the site anyways.
On the north side?
Correct. And, you know, I would say that specifically for the hotel, we are gonna do better communication with them. We've had the pleasure to meet with the manager. I would say we would need to be more effective in being able to have conversations with the owner. We've not succeeded on that, but we're here. We've been able to make contact, and I completely understand your concern and their concern, and all I can say is now that we're finally being able to establish some communication, that is our responsibility to continue that communication process, to understand their concerns, to be able to mitigate those concerns, but more importantly, to work out the partnership with them. For example, they don't have bed and breakfast. We have the opportunity to give them that breakfast option, you know, which we've already discussed with the manager and we've made known to the owner. But again, we need to make a more concerted effort moving past this stage to understand everyone's concerns and to address them as best as we can. We've already taken 40% of the building out of the project, which for us, we see as a substantial contribution to the beauty of the area. That's not what a developer normally does. They normally do what the project that was gonna be there before did, which is a big square box as high as they can build it. We don't wanna do that. If they have a bad view, we have a bad view. So that is our approach, and all I can say is definitely, I agree with you. We need to have more communication with our neighbors, more communication with the community, and we are working on that.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
Are you planning on asking the county to give up the beach?
I don't actually
Make
know.
it private?
I got it.
Yeah.
He knows what we're doing.
No, for the record,
I want that on record.
I didn't even know that was possible.
on the record, no, absolutely not. And we get that question on oceanfront projects, so it's a good question. Thank you.
That's all I have, thank you.
Thanks. Yes, ma'am.
One more thing I'd like to say. I really think this is a great idea. You know, so many builders put as many units in as possible without giving us a restaurant and all these things that we're going to be able to have. So, you know, I think that's very positive for the area.
I agree.
Any other questions?
And again, we have to thank the community for that. Like that is not something that we had a coffee shop on our first approach. And being able to meet with Jim and the residents of Towers 10 and whoever showed up for that design charrette, because they had that bidding war of what that space was gonna be, wine bar, restaurant, beach club, they actually were able to take the whole ground floor. So, wow, okay. This is when I start beatboxing.
Take the microphone back, Stuart.
So,
By highlighting something that I think is important that Darius is talking about, We have reached out to the neighbors. I think that maybe we didn't get as far as we could with the folks to the north, which we're happy to do now. So I want to make sure that it's clear that we're ready to talk. These guys are wide open. They've talked to everybody surrounding them. I think very well received. So including the folks that I think are here from the neighbors to the south that may speak or not. But we want to make sure we have the opportunity to respond today to any questions that come up from them as well.
I have a question. So everything that we're discussing today, it's a development agreement, everything is conceptual. And I don't know who's best to answer this question, but if this development agreement is approved with the deviations as requested, would those deviations allow, when the detailed site planning is done, would they even allow for that 7-foot public walkway to be present with the deviations that are requested?
So the idea is that there would not be
Right.
public walkway in light of the fact that the beach approach is very short walking distance away. That was the rationale. We've been back and forth with, from the mayor, the city manager, and everybody about that subject, and I think that's where we ended up. So a site plan, a detailed site plan will come forward, and it has to be consistent with the development agreement. This is the first step.
Right.
The next step, you get to see the detailed plans. Of course, after the city commission weighs in on this. And I think, to answer your question, the deviation is so that we don't have that because of the fact that the beach approach is.
So with the deviations as requested, that 7-foot walkway would not be able to be constructed?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It says that you don't have to, but if you
Right.
decide to, you could, certainly.
Right, but with the deviations, with all the different percentages, it would be changed with the deviations as far as the setback and the sides, north and south. Would a 7-foot walkway be possible when those site plans are presented?
Well, Joe, maybe you got.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
No, I understand.
Yep.
No, I don't believe so. In the code specific, if there's a walkway within close proximity to the property, then you're allowed a waiver in constructing it. If there's not one, you have to build one in the location. I think the project would sacrifice a lot of aesthetics, particularly landscaping, if we tried to incorporate a public walkway on this. With one just less than a block away, the need for an additional walkway and the burden that it places on the city to operate and maintain that walkway is, as staff has suggested, they don't think it's necessary either.
And then philosophically, to speak to that, we view,
Yes, make sure you got a mic. Thanks.
philosophically to speak to that, we also see that the entire ground floor is a walkway. Like, you can go to the beach club that has access down to the beach.
It's just that it is private.
Private property.
Understood.
That would be the difference.
That-
But I
That's
was
why I'm
just,
saying philosophically.
and there are so many conceptual documents presented, it was really thorough. I was just curious in interpreting them, whether that would be possible with those deviations.
I'll let-
That was a very direct answer. Thank you so
I'll let
much.
the pros
Yep.
speak to that, but
Perfect.
Anything else?
Is there a possibility that this condo project could turn into a hotel project?
No.
Or a condo hotel?
No, we don't do that.
They got 7 years to build it.
What other questions does the board have? Thank you so much. So the board has no further questions. I think at this point, we're moving toward anybody in the public who would like to speak, right?
Public comment, yes.
Yeah, thank you. And do we want to have everyone, if you're going to speak, you can come on up to the podium. Are we,
Do we have any cards for speakers or?
Go swear them in.
No.
No.
no one's heard anything in, Jerry? Okay.
Okay, we could just call them up as they raise their hand, I guess.
3 minutes.
All right, so sir, you come on up. You've got 3 minutes to speak. We appreciate you.
Name, address.
And
Can you get up?
yes, sir, please state your name and address.
Joe McCauley, Towers 10. The question I have is the collapse of the Westgate seawall directly led to the collapse of Towers 10 seawall, the $3 million assessment. What's the earliest we would envision the new seawall tying into our seawall? And is the seawall also going to be the same height as our seawall at Towers 10?
Thank you.
Mal, do you want to speak to this?
Do you want to do it one at a time or wait till they all get done? Either way.
I think just as we have those questions, we can address them. Thank you.
So, Joe, you can correct me on any technical points here. So currently, the property is still under the the ownership of Westgate while we have it under contract. So we just had a meeting last week to coordinate final designs. It is approved. So we know that those permits expire by the end of February, I believe. So we are urging the current owner to aggressively get that seawall in. It is engineered to tie in at the same height as the side seawalls. This is something that was discussed with the neighbors and the engineers took into account so that we have it integrated as an integrated seawall front, but also site-specific as well with a return. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, because I've been in constant coordination with them, because their seawall also has to go with a future project. So they have been diligently working on that. They have already permitted, I think it's with the DEP. So they understand that it's a very important thing, and they already have they're working with it. It's not that they forgot about it. They're working with them and with us. I think you can say the technical details, but
The wall itself has been permitted, and it's going to be reconstructed to a similar height of what it was before. I believe it's around elevation 13 and a half, if I'm not mistaken. The deadline on the permit is coming after the first of the year, I think in early January, February. But the Department of Environmental Protection allows for a 90-day extension on these emergency orders. This permit was obtained under the emergency order. So we're going to request a 90-day extension. So our window to complete the job is going to be within that 90-day extension. We're not going to be able to get it started and get it complete before the current permit expires, but that provision to extend another 90 days is going to allow us sufficient time to complete the project.
Does that answer your question, sir? Does that address it enough?
Sure. So you envision that the wall would be completed sometime in 2024 before the next hurricane season?
Yes, correct, sir.
Okay.
I would say we're looking in the second quarter of 2024.
Thank you. Any other individuals in attendance who would like to comment or have a question? Come on up, thank you. Just name and address when you get up here.
Hi, I'm Janet Babbitt. I also live at Towers 10, 3425 South Atlantic. My question relates to parking. How much parking will be available for the commercial space? And just some clarification on the beach club part, because the presentation made it like that was also public space. So how would that work?
I think, Joe, if you want to help me on the technical aspect, and I can. So, again, we're in the conceptual stage. We've currently reached out to operators, but essentially you would book a meal, come in, whatever the operator is going to decide, and you would have your restaurant. There's envisioned to be a tiki bar down by the pool. I can't tell you exactly how it's going to operate because we don't have the operator yet, but philosophically it would be, they may choose to do a membership. If that's the case, we've already let neighbors know that they would have the first dibs on any membership structure that exists. We'll make sure that that's accounted for by whichever operator we have. This was another substantial thing that we had to do. When we added the ground space, we had to add an underground parking structure. And there's no extra money to the developer on that. It's just what we can do to sort of make this work. And that we see as kind of sort of an investment on our part as well to make it a project that's actually going to work. So, Joe, is there any, in terms of the actual specifics on the parking, if you can discuss that?
The parking calculation is twofold. There's one calculation for the individual residential units, and then there's another parking calculation for the restaurant seating that would be open to the public. The land development code itself really doesn't contemplate that we have a resident that's going to be eating in the restaurant. We provide parking for both uses, the restaurant independently and the residential units independently. So we've allocated 160 seats that would be theoretically open to the public. Not to say that a resident wouldn't come down and occupy one of those 160 seats. That's reality. But in the parking calculation, we look at it independently. That's two different uses, two different parking.
Does that address your question? Thank you.
Other questions or input?
Stuart?
Oh, sorry.
you have 160 seats in a restaurant, how many parking spaces are you supposed to have for that?
Let me do the math.
Joe, how do you know?
The code requires one space for every 4 seats. So a 160-seat restaurant would require 40 stalls.
And in addition to that, you're gonna have how many parking spaces for units?
122,
So you're gonna have about 160 seat parking spaces total.
162.
Okay, good.
All right, other questions from the board or from attendees?
If there's nothing else, I would like to make a concluding statement.
Anything else from the board? Thank you.
So, in conclusion, one thing that I would like to do is I would like to conclude with a thanks. And we've met with numerous people from the city, various city commissioners, the mayor, but perhaps most importantly with the building department and our neighbors who have guided us through this process. Just as important as them guiding us on what we can do has been them guiding us on what we can't do. It saved us a substantial amount of time and redesigns, wasting time and effort. But everyone has greeted us in a friendly manner, in a professional manner. And I can tell you in developing in numerous sites internationally, as well as California on the West Coast, it's not always that way. And whether things happen or not, or get approved or not, that spirit of collaboration and cooperation and friendliness makes our job much more enjoyable and makes us go, oh, we get to go to Daytona Beach Shores for the day. So we see what you've done with the city, and we really admire it. And we know it's not just the people sitting in front of us, but the neighbors who agreed to cover the costs of putting this stuff, the utilities underground. We see that you love your city, that you care for your city, that you respect for your city, and what we can promise you is that we feel the same way. We would not be developing or attempting to develop here otherwise. So thank you for what you've done to make an incredible location. We promise to do our best and to show you that we do mean what we say about bringing value to the community and participating in the neighborhood. And now we're getting a more full-time team assigned, so there will be better communication, a more constant communication between everyone. And as well, thank you to Cobb and Cole, thank you to Joe, thank you to our architects, and our legal team. Jessica, you have been incredibly vital. And that's it. This is an Academy Awards presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have any motions from the board regarding?
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the ordinance 2023-15 Daytona Beach Shores LLC Development Agreement 3411 South Atlantic Avenue, Serena by the Shores.
Second.
All right, so, do a roll call vote? All right.
Ms. Tortori?
Yes.
Mr. Horgan?
Yes.
Mr. Lilly?
No.
Mr. Desai?
Yes.
Ms. Ruth?
Yes.
Thank you for your time today. You guys have a great Monday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're here for, I don't know if we're allowed to stay in the room, but we'll be outside otherwise. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Do you have any other discussion for the board? No.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Looks like they just adjourned.
Right. Make sure they go.
We were told to leave.
Oh, well, here.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, board members, I just wanted to wish you all compliments of the season.
Thank you, Stuart.
And also give you a heads up that you'll be getting a call or probably a formal email from Sherry Schwab, our city clerk.
We're gonna, excuse me one second, we're gonna,
Are we still?
we're still in session, just to clarify. So if you'd like to take discussion out, while we finish up the meeting, that'd be great, but we are still in session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
So you should all be receiving an invitation from our city clerk, Sherry Schwab, on an appreciation breakfast that the city wants to host for the board and the special magistrate, and that will be, I believe, on January 8th. It's going to start at 8 a.m. until 8 a.m. until 9 a.m., and after that, we will convene with our regular meeting. So I just wanted to give you all I'm sorry?
Is that at Burger King, he said?
I don't think that was an actual question.
It will be better than that.
Thank you. All right, the motion to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're gonna adjourn this meeting.